In the old town of Greymoor, shadows don't just hide, they watch, they wait, and they claim. Daniel drove his old truck toward Greymoor. The road was long and empty, the sky gray and dull. His tires made a steady hum on the pavement, going on 4 hours. Daniel was tired. His eyes were red from driving so long. His radio was broken, only making a faint buzzing sound. On the passenger seat was an old envelope with his name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was one sentence: "Come to Greymoor, know the truth." Daniel's mother, who died 10 years ago, had mentioned Greymoor once. She was sick and said, "Greymoor is where the shadows live." Daniel didn't take it seriously then, but this envelope made him feel he had to go. Something was pulling him, like a secret waiting for him. There were no road signs. The trees were dry and strange, like hands reaching for the sky. Sometimes he saw an old mailbox or a broken shack, but no people, birds, or animals. The air smelled odd, damp and sour, like bad milk. Daniel closed his window, but the cold still came through it. After a long time, he saw a faded sign: Greymoor, 2 miles. The letters were peeling, the wood cracked. Daniel felt uneasy, like he forgot something important. He kept driving. The road got worse, full of rocks and holes. Greymoor appeared through the fog. It was a small town with a few old buildings along one street. The houses were worn, their paint gone, windows dark or boarded up. A gas station stood at the edge, its pumps rusted, with a sign that read "Last Stop." There were no people, no cars, no sounds, just heavy silence that pressed on his chest. Daniel parked in front of an old shop that might have been a diner once. Its sign was broken, but the word "E" was still visible. He grabbed the envelope and got out. The air was cold, and the sour smell was stronger, mixed with something like metal. He zipped his jacket and looked around. Everything was still. The building's windows stared back like empty eyes. He went into the diner. The door creaked loudly. Inside was dusty. Tables were dirty, chairs pushed against the walls, like someone left in a hurry. A counter had stool stuck to the floor. Behind it, a board listed prices: coffee, $1, pie, $2, soup, $1.50. Daniel read them over and over, but they meant nothing. "Anyone here?" he called. No answer. He walked further in. His footsteps echoed. A faint sound came from somewhere. Maybe an old fridge. A calendar on the wall was stuck on June 1995. It showed a family picture, but their faces were blurry from age. Daniel felt a strange fear growing slowly inside him. He left the diner and walked down the street. He passed a barber shop with a broken sign, a store with boarded windows, and a church with a slightly tilted steeple. Everything felt quiet, like time had stopped. He went into the church. The door squeaked. Inside were dusty pews. A stained glass window showed a figure in black, its face unclear, holding a lantern. The glass was cracked, and the light made odd shadows on the floor. Daniel's phone buzzed in his pocket, startling him. He checked it, but the screen was blank, no signal, no messages. Yet it buzzed again, a strange vibration. He turned it off, but the sound continued, softer now, coming from somewhere else. He followed it to a corner of the church, where a trapdoor was in the floor. The buzzing stopped when he touched the handle. He opened it, revealing stairs going down into darkness. The air below was cold and wet, with that sour smell. His flashlight barely worked, lighting up slippery stone steps. He went down slowly. Each step creaked. The walls had faint scratches, maybe words, but too worn to read. At the bottom was a small room with shelves. The shelves held jars filled with strange water that glowed faintly. Something moved in one jar, then disappeared fast. Daniel stepped closer. The jars had names written on them: Margaret, Thomas, Eliza, John, in the same shaky writing as his envelope. When he saw Daniel on one, he froze. His heart pounded. The water in that jar was darker, and something floated inside, too vague to see clearly. He reached out, then stopped, his hand shaking. The air felt heavy, pressing on him, and the buzzing started again, coming from the jar. He stepped back, his flashlight flickered. The room's shadows seemed to move, reaching for him. He climbed the stairs quickly, and the trapdoor slammed shut behind him. Back in the church, the stained glass figure seemed to watch him. He hurried out, the envelope tight in his hand. Outside, the town was the same, silent, gray. But the shadows looked longer, gathering where they shouldn't. Daniel walked to his truck, his steps faster. He drove to a motel at the town's edge, its sign flickering, vacancy. Inside, an old clerk with a pale face stared past him. "Room's $10, he said flatly. Daniel paid, took the key, and went to his room. It was small, smelly, with a sagging bed and a window showing only fog. He sat on the bed, holding the envelope. He read the words again. "Come to Greymoor, know the truth." He kept reading, his mind going numb. The room was cold, the smell worse. He lay down, staring at a stain on the ceiling like a strange cloud. His phone buzzed again. Though it was off, he ignored it, closed his eyes, but couldn't sleep. He kept seeing the jar, its shadow, watching him. The night dragged on, nothing changed. The shadows outside grew darker, pressing against the window. Daniel lay still, silent, counting seconds, waiting for something. Nothing happened. The town stayed quiet, the shadows stayed still, and the truth, whatever it was, stayed out of reach. Daniel woke to the same gray light filtering through the motel's foggy window. His room was cold, the air thick with that sour, metallic smell. The ceiling stain looked darker, like a cloud that had grown overnight. His phone was silent now, but the memory of its buzzing kept him on edge. He sat up, the envelope still in his hand. Its words burned into his mind. Come to Greymoor, know the truth. He didn't know what truth, but the jar with his name in the church basement wouldn't let him leave. He got dressed, pulling on his jacket, and stepped outside. The town was as quiet as before. The fog hung low, blurring the edges of the buildings. The shadows seemed heavier today, pulling in alleys and under doorways. Though the sun was nowhere to be seen, Daniel's truck was where he left it, covered in a thin layer of dew that looked dark, almost oily. He wiped a hand across the windshield, and it smeared, leaving streaks that caught the light oddly. He decided to walk the main street again, looking for answers. The diner was still empty, its door creaking as he passed. The barber shop's broken pole was still. No sign of life. He stopped at the general store he'd seen yesterday. Its windows boarded, but one plank loose. He pushed it aside and peered, and dust floated in the dim light, and shelves stood half empty, holding cans with faded labels and a few scattered tools. A counter had an old cash register, its keys rusted. Behind it, a corkboard was pinned with yellow papers, receipts, a faded ad for a fair, a missing person flyer. The flyer caught his eye. It showed a woman, her face blurry but familiar. The name was smudged, but he felt a chill, thinking of his mother. Daniel squeezed through the gap in the boards. The air inside was stale, heavier than outside. He walked to the corkboard, his boots kicking up dust. The flyer was old, the paper brittle. The woman's eyes were like his mother's, but the photo was too worn to be sure. Below it, a note was penned, seen in Greymoor, June 1995. That was the year on the diner's calendar. His mother had been alive then, but she never mentioned this place except in her fevered words. He took the flyer, folding it carefully, and slipped it into his pocket with the envelope. A faint noise came from the back of the store's shuffle, like footsteps. "Hello," Daniel called, his voice flat in the dead air. No answer, but the shuffling stopped. He walked toward the sound, past shelves of rotting boxes and jars like the ones in the church. Though these were empty, a door in the back was ajar, leading to a storage room. Inside, the air was colder, the smell stronger. Boxes were stacked high, some labeled with names: Clara, Henry, Ruth. His heart skipped when he saw one marked Daniel. He didn't touch it, afraid of what he might find. The shuffling came again, closer now. He turned, flashlight shaking in his hand. A figure stood in the doorway, an old woman, her face pale, eyes wide and glassy. She wore a faded dress, her hair thin and gray. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice low, like she hadn't spoken in years. Daniel stepped back. "I'm just looking," he said. "Do you know about this?" He held up the flyer. She stared at it, then at him, her eyes flickering to the box with his name. "Leave it," she said. "Some things stay buried." She turned and shuffled away, disappearing into the shadows of the store. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to follow her, but his legs felt heavy, like the air was holding him back. He left the storage room, the flyer, an envelope heavy in his pocket. Outside, the fog was thicker, the shadows darker. He walked toward the church again, drawn to it despite the fear from yesterday. The steeple loomed through the mist, its tilt more noticeable. The door was still open, creaking as he entered. The pews were unchanged, as thick as ever. The stained glass figure seemed sharper today, its lantern glowing faintly in the dim light. Daniel's phone buzzed again, though he'd checked it was off. The sound came from the trapdoor in the corner. He ignored it, focusing on the altar instead. It was bare except for a small book, its cover worn leather. He opened it, finding handwritten pages, names, dates, and short notes. One page read, "Margaret, 1993, taken by the shadow. Thomas, 1994, claimed at dusk. Eliza, 1995, lost in the fog." His mother's name wasn't there, but the last entry was smudged, dated June 1995. His hands shook as he turned the pages, finding nothing else. The buzzing grew louder, pulling him back to the trapdoor. He didn't want to go down, but the flyer in the book pushed him forward. The stairs were as slick as before, the air colder. The jars on the shelves glinted in his flashlight's beam. The one with Daniel on it seemed darker, the thing inside moving slowly, like it was waking up. He stared, unable to move, until a noise above a loud creak snapped him out of it. He climbed back up, the trapdoor slamming shut again. Outside the church, he saw the old woman from the store standing across the street, watching him. She didn't move, just stared, her eyes locked on his. Daniel walked toward her, but she turned and vanished into an alley. He followed, the fog swallowing the street behind him. The alley led to a small house, its door open. Inside, the air was thick, the smell overwhelming. A single room held a table, a chair, and a mirror on the wall. The mirror's glass was cracked, and his reflection looked wrong, his eyes dark, his face pale. Something moved behind him in the reflection, a shadow that wasn't his. He turned, but nothing was there. On the table was a photo, old and curled at the edges. It showed a woman holding a baby, standing in front of the church. The woman's face was clear this time, his mother, younger, smiling faintly. The baby was him. Daniel's throat tightened. He'd never seen this photo, but it was real. The kind his mother kept in a box under her bed. On the back was written, "Greymoor, 1995. He put it in his pocket with a flyer, an envelope, his hands shaking. The buzzing started again, not from his phone but from the mirror. He looked at it, and the shadow was there, clearer now, a vague shape with no face. It moved, closer in the reflection, though nothing was behind him. He backed away, stumbling out of the house. The fog was so thick he could barely see the street. The shadows seemed to follow, stretching across the ground, though there was no light to cast them. He made it back to the motel, his heart pounding. The clerk was at the desk, staring at the same spot past Daniel's shoulder. "Find anything?" the clerk asked, his voice flat. Daniel shook his head, not trusting his voice. In his room. He locked the door and sat on the bed. He laid out the envelope, the flyer, and the photo. They all pointed to his mother, to Greymoor, to 1995. The buzzing came again, softer. From his pocket, he ignored it, staring at the ceiling stain, which looked like it had grown again, its edges curling like fingers. The night was long and quiet. The fog pressed against the window, the shadows thick outside. Daniel didn't sleep, just lay there, thinking about the jars, the book, the photo. The truth was closer, but still out of reach, hidden in the shadows of Greymoor. Daniel woke to the same gray light in his motel room. The air was cold, the sour, metallic smell stronger than before. The ceiling stain had spread, its edges curling like a hand reaching down. The envelope, flyer, and photo lay on the bed, their weight heavier than paper should be. His phone was silent, but the buzzing from yesterday echoed in his mind. He knew he couldn't leave Greymoor not yet. The truth about his mother, the jars, and the shadows was close, pulling him like a thread he couldn't cut. He dressed, his hands shaking as he tucked the flyer and photo into his pocket with the envelope. The words come to Greymoor. No, the truth felt like a command now. Outside, the fog was thicker, swallowing the street. The shadows were everywhere, darker than they should be, clinging to walls and corners. His truck was still parked, the oily dew thicker, smearing under his fingers as he brushed it off. He didn't drive. He needed to walk, to find the answers hidden in this dead town. The main street was as empty as ever. The diner's broken sign flickered faintly, though no power. Should be running. The church's steeple loomed ahead, its tilt sharper in the fog. Daniel's steps were slow, his boots crunching on the cracked pavement. He passed the general store, its loose board still ajar, but didn't stop. The old woman's words, some things stayed buried, rang in his head, but he pushed them aside. He needed to know. He headed toward a building he hadn't noticed before. At the far end of the street, it was larger than the others, with a faded sign that read Town Hall. The doors were heavy wood, warped but unlocked. They creaked as he pushed them open, the sound echoing in the still air. Inside, the hall was dark, dust thick on the floor. Rows of chairs faced a stage, where a podium stood, covered in cobwebs. The air was heavy, the sour smell mixed with something like old paper. Shadows moved in the corners, though no light cast them. Daniel's flashlight flickered as he walked to the stage. Behind the podium was a door marked Records. He opened it, revealing a small room filled with filing cabinets. The drawers were rusted, some jammed, but one slid open easily. Inside were folders, yellowed and brittle, labeled with years. He found one for 1995 and pulled it out. Dust rose as he opened it, revealing pages of handwritten notes. Like the book in the church, names, dates, and short entries. Margaret, taken by the shadow, June 10th. Thomas, claimed at dusk, June 12th. Eliza, lost in the fog, June 15th. At the bottom was a name he knew, Sarah. Vanished in the night, June 20th, 1995. Sarah was his mother. His heart pounded. The flyer from the store, the photo from the house, they all pointed to her. He read the entry again. Sarah came to Greymoor seeking answers. Seen at the church, Shadow took her. There was no explanation, just those words. He flipped through more pages, finding a letter tucked inside, addressed to my son. The handwriting matched the envelope in his pocket. His hands shook as he read. Daniel, if you're here, you got my letter. I came to Greymoor to find my sister, Eliza. She disappeared here, and I thought I could save her. The shadows are real. They watch, they wait, they take. Don't trust the town. Don't trust the jars. Leave before it's too late. I love you. Mom, tears stung his eyes. His mother had been here, looking for her sister, and something took her. The shadows. He shoved the letter into his pocket, his mind racing. The buzzing started again, faint at first, coming from the hall. He left the Records room, flashlight shaking. The shadows on the walls seemed to move, stretching toward him. He hurried out of the town hall, the door slamming behind him. The fog outside was so thick he could barely see the street. The shadows were everywhere now, pulling like ink. He walked toward the church, the only place that seemed to hold answers. The buzzing grew louder as he approached, coming from his pocket, though his phone was off. The church door was open, the stained glass figure glowing faintly, its face still hidden. The pews were covered in dust, the air cold and heavy. He went straight to the trapdoor. The buzzing was loud now, coming from below. He opened it, the hinges screaming, and descended. The slick stairs. The basement was the same jars on shelves, their cloudy liquid glowing faintly. The jar with Daniel on it was darker, the shape inside clearer. Like a hand pressing against the glass, he froze, his breath short. The shadows in the room moved, circling him, though no light cast them. The buzzing was deafening, filling his head. A voice whispered, soft and cold, not from the jar, but from the air. "You came," it said. Like her, Daniel's heart stopped. He backed toward the stairs. But the shadows thickened, blocking his way. They weren't just shadows, they felt alive, heavy, pressing against him. His flashlight flickered out, leaving only the faint glow of the jars. The shape in his jar moved faster, pounding against the glass, like it wanted out. He stumbled back, tripping on the stairs. The shadows followed, cold and heavy, wrapping around his legs. He crawled up, gasping, and slammed the trapdoor shut. The buzzing stopped, but the air in the church was no lighter. The stained glass figure seemed to lean forward, its lantern brighter. Daniel ran outside, the fog swallowing the church behind him. He didn't go back to the motel. He couldn't. The shadows were everywhere, in the fog, in the windows, in the cracks of the pavement. He ran to his truck, fumbling with the keys. The engine sputtered but started. He drove, the road barely visible through the fog. The shadows moved with him, stretching across the windshield, though no light cast them. His phone buzzed in his pocket, louder, faster, until he threw it out the window. The buzzing didn't stop. It came from the truck, from the air, from inside him. The road out of Greymoor seemed longer than the way in. The sign Greymoor, 2 miles, appeared again. Though he was leaving, he drove faster, the shadows chasing him, their edges sharp like claws. His mother's letter burned in his pocket. Don't trust the jars. Leave before it's too late. He was trying, but the road kept going, the fog thicker, the shadows closer. Finally, the fog thinned, and the road opened to a highway he recognized. The shadows faded. The buzzing stopped. He pulled over, his hands shaking on the wheel. He took out the letter, the flyer, and the photo, laying them on the seat. His mother came to Greymoor for her sister and was taken by the shadows. The jar with his name meant they wanted him to. He didn't know what the shadows were, ghosts, curses, or something worse, but they were real. And they were still in Greymoor. Daniel drove home, the gray sky unchanging. He didn't look back. The truth was his mother's warning, her love, her loss. He'd keep the letter, but he'd never return. The shadows could stay in Greymoor, watching, waiting, claiming. He was done.